Are you one of the thousands of people who put their dreams on a shelf, then suddenly you're at the age of 50, 60, or beyond when you see them sitting there and you decide it's too late now? I'm too old to do that. In this video, I'm going to share my story so you'll realize it's never too late and you're never too old to get that box back off of the shelf, dust it off, and watch those dreams come true. My dreams were suffocating in a tiny box for 4 decades. It took a tragic event and many years for me to open that box. As my story unfolds, you'll hear how the dreams I thought would never materialize eventually became a reality. I'm Esther. Welcome to my channel. Robert from Robert's Active Retirement YouTube channel challenged others to tell their life stories. So I've accepted that challenge, and I hope that my story will help at least one person. And I hope that person is you. I grew up a painfully shy redneck country girl, afraid of her own shadow. My heart ached as I watched others laughing and enjoying life. I wished I could be like them. I wished I could join in, but I couldn't. I didn't know how because I was just too shy. At the age of 20, I got married. I thought my marriage would miraculously change my personality. After all, I married the things that I admired in life. The opposites attract personality. A man who was outgoing, outspoken, and who stood his ground. But that didn't change me. I continued to be the same chronically shy person. I took the easy road. As usual, I let him make all the decisions. All I had to do was follow. And follow I did. When he tired of a job or got upset at work about something, he was ready to relocate. He'd come home and say, I was thinking maybe we should move to Idaho. And off we'd go. One time it was Kansas because he got offered a job there. Now that one was tough for me, halfway across the country from my family. I lasted 6 months until I sought enough courage to blurt out, in the midst of my sobbing, of course, I'm going back to the West Coast with or without you. Every move we made, he always had a job within a few days because he was always so confident in the person that he was. Totally opposite than me. I almost cringed at the idea of another job interview. We raised 4 wonderful boys in our nearly 21 years of marriage. Giving birth was quite the adventure, as it is for most women, of course. It was 5 a.m. when we headed to the hospital with my first pregnancy. I just knew the baby would be born any minute, and I hoped we would make it to the hospital in time. I couldn't believe it when the doctor told me I was only dilated to a 2. I have to go out of town today and I'll be back at 9 tonight, he said. If you're close enough by then, we'll break your water. The baby should be born shortly after that. What? I felt furious, as if it was all his fault. How could he be going out of town when I am about to have a baby? It turned out he knew exactly what he was talking about. I huffed and I puffed and I groaned and I moaned all day long. He returned at 9 like he said he would. I think you're close enough now. I'll have the nurse get you ready for delivery. Soon afterwards, I was holding a darling little baby boy, and I quickly forgot about those agonizing hours. I expected the same routine with my second child. I felt some twinges of pain off and on one day. I thought it might be a few days that I'd be going into labor. Wrong. When labor hit, it was instant. We decided we better get to the hospital, which is only 1 mile away. But as I stood up, I collapsed back on the bed. My legs wobbled like jelly. My husband picked me up and we headed to the car. But my back arched involuntarily and my water broke and I gasped. You better hurry because the baby's coming right now. Our second son was born on the front seat of our car on the way to the hospital. That's 2 down and 2 to go. I was Miss Fertile Myrtle. Son number 3, I planned a little better and I got to the hospital in plenty of time. He was born just 4 hours after labor started. And then son number 4 decided to be a little bit acrobatic and he did a flip during labor. Being in a breech position, the doctor recommended a C-section for the baby's protection. Then, in the blink of an eye, all 4 of these precious little guys had grown up to be wonderful, outstanding young men. But in the meantime, tragic struck our family twice. At the age of 33, my husband was in a rollover auto accident that threw him through the windshield. The impact broke his neck, leaving him a paraplegic. He spent the next 10 years in a wheelchair. He tried to be productive and went back to school, got his degree. He stayed as active as he possibly could, all the while battling severe depression. Sadly, after 10 years, that black cloud that hung over his head won that battle. At the age of 41, I was a widow. That terrified me. The world I knew was instantly changed. I struggled with guilt and grief over his death. I struggled with fear, a fear of having to face life on my own. But I had no other choice. Now I had to make my own decisions. I knew if I wanted to be this, I could no longer be this. With one step at a time and often faltering discipline, I began to emerge from my shy, uncomfortable little shell. I quickly learned that courage is not a skill set. It only comes when you practice it regularly. I learned to socialize. I spent 11 years working on those changes in myself. Every accomplishment felt like a major milestone. It took that sad, tragic accident to miraculously turn my life around. Then after 11 years, something else began to happen. I felt my aging clock ticking. Maybe I need a husband. Most of my single friends had gotten married by now. I convinced myself that I could love this guy, that he would make a good husband. You guessed it. I settled. I married at the age of 53. Huge mistake. It lasted 3 short years before we parted ways on friendly terms. I learned to be totally content in my singleness after that. I loved my life. I had a wonderful job and friends and wonderful family. And then 8 years later, something else happened. That perfect for me man walked into my life at the age of 64. We married 10 months later. I retired, and with the job out of the way, I now had time to start experimenting with hobbies. It was at that time that I got up the courage to get that dusty box back off of the shelf. I opened it up and I reached for those dreams that I'd long ago given up on. By watching probably hundreds of hours of YouTube videos, I became an accomplished artist. And I started teaching paint and sip classes. Yes, imagine that. Me, this gal who was once frightened to speak in front of a group, who was afraid of her own shadow, was now teaching art. I also learned to play ukulele. My new husband, Sean, convinced me to start singing with him. He was a huge karaoke fan. Sean and I now live in Arizona. In our 70s, we started a successful karaoke business of our own. You're my bread when I'm hungry. But there's more. Sean convinced me that I should write my story of transformation. I wasn't sure I wanted to put all those vulnerable stories out there at first, but when I saw others displaying those same painfully shy traits that I worked so hard to overcome, I decided if my story would help one person, then it would be worth writing. Too often, our stories die with us, never to be told. In November 2024, I couldn't control the smiles and the excitement of holding that first draft copy of my book in my hands. A week later, I published my memoir of overcoming that chronically shy person. How in my 60s, I finally reached for those dreams that I didn't think would ever materialize. And by actually reaching for those dreams, rather than just dreaming about them, they came true. So why am I sharing all of this? Because I'm hoping that you may be that one person that my story helps. I'm telling my story because I want to show you that age doesn't matter. You can be 50, 60, or beyond, and you're never too old to get those dreams back off of the shelf and make them come true. Dust off that box and open it up and start reaching for your dreams, whatever they may be. If you're interested in reading my memoir, my full story, I'll post the information in the description below. Don't give up on your dreams. You can do it. Tell me in the comments, how long have your dreams been sitting on this shelf? Are you ready to open that box? To check out my book, I think you may relate to a lot of things in it. The information is in the description below. And I hope to see you on my next video. Have a wonderful day.